The head coach and owner of Vision Quest Muay Thai Maine, Primo Bellarosa, is back on the show. And Primo, it has been entirely too long since I've seen you last, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, bro. It has been a while. I'm super psyched to be back with you, man. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm happy to see you. And I still don't have one of those Vision Quest shirts. So we need to fix that. I got to get one of those. Those are nice.
I got you, bro. Message me your size, and I'll have one for you the next time we see each other.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll just tell you, I want to get a large. I need to work still on my summer body and slimming. So I'll get there. But tell me, how has this pandemic been? How has it affected your gym and what you've been able to do in the MMA game?
Good and bad. It's I think we've said on past episodes, my wife and I just recently moved to Maine, just finished building our house. So the truth of it is, it's been nice in that we're able to settle into our house and not have to worry really about going to work or anything like that, so that's been really nice. The other part of that is, I was in Thailand, commentating for Fight Pass for 3+ months. So that was time away from my wife, and then building the house was time away while she was still in New York working. So it was really nice to just be able to hang out with her. You know what I mean? And settle in. And the other side of that is right when my wife's a hairstylist, right when both of us were pretty much ready to sign leases to open places, all this COVID stuff hit and it kind of put the kibosh on it, So it's been hard. Folks over at the outlet in Dexter, Angelo Rizzatello, they've been kind enough to let me do private lessons there. So I've been able to train some of my pro fighters, Josh Harvey being one of them. So it's been good that we've been able to get some training in. It's been tough in that we're not able to get as much training. We're certainly not able to get like the group training that we want to have happen. Matt Probin's been training with me, so that's been really good. He's, an outstanding stand-up fighter. So it's been good, but it's been very hard to get everybody together and still follow the rules. And you know what I mean? It's been tough.
Mm-hmm. I imagine it seems to piggyback off of what you just said. Maybe this was a blessing in disguise if you were getting ready to sign that lease and then this pandemic hits. Maybe this really benefited you here long term, where it'll put you in a better place financially once things open back up.
Absolutely. I mean, my wife and I have said it a couple of times that even though it sucked to not be, by this point in the year, we had both expected to have our businesses up and running. You know what I mean? I'd put the money aside to be able to open a gym. And it would be really nice right now if I was just going to my gym every day and working on building, a membership base and working on training fighters and so on and so forth. But the truth of it is, had I signed a lease, technically I would have been locked into paying that lease, and I wouldn't have been able to actually run a business. So, I know a lot of gym owners right now throughout the country that are either closing down their gym because they had to go out of business. They couldn't afford to continue paying their rents and not have membership fees coming in, or people that are dangerously close to closing down their business. So I kind of escaped that.
Do you have the facility picked out where once you do get in that position to open it up, you're going to be ready to go and get this gym up and rolling?
Not yet. I've got a couple spaces that I've been looking at, couple areas I've been looking at, nothing I'm willing to, commit to just yet. But I was getting close, to pulling the trigger, whether it was, on an area or whether it was on a, specific location where I've gone back and forth with a few different landlords on, lease agreements and stuff.
Man, this pandemic has really been hard for small businesses all over, not just the state of Maine, but all over the country. It's really put a hamper on a lot of people doing what they love, including yourself. I mean, I look at Chris Young and Young's MMA, the situation that he's in. I mean, what do you think ultimately is going to be the outcome here? Do you think everyone will get back on their feet, or do you think 2020 is going to be the start of something that maybe we don't want to see here moving forward?
Man, I've always been, as far as being a gym owner and a trainer, I've always wanted to see other gyms succeed. even if they were across the street from me, because my thought on that is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a trainer, but I'm a businessman. You know what I mean? My business has to succeed for me to be able to live. I've never wanted to put out of business other gyms or see other gyms go out of business, because I feel like if there's only enough room for one gym, then there's not enough room for anybody. You know what I mean? Like if there's only enough clientele to go around for one gym to survive, then it's only a matter of time before I'm out of business anyways.
Yeah.
So I really, really hope that, you know, these other martial arts gyms and MMA gyms that are close to going out of business or are now in kind of the same spot as me where, you know, like Chris, he's out of USA and he's been looking for a spot. I know I had spoken to him before COVID hit and he was looking for a spot. I'm assuming he hasn't found a spot because of COVID. Because again, why would you sign on a spot and try to open it when you can't really open? I really hope everybody can come out of it. I think a little bit of that depends on what the state is saying. You know what I mean? You know, conspiracy theories and whatever. I personally think take precautions, but what we're looking at here is the flu. You know what I mean? The death rate is pretty small comparatively. And I also think that gyms can operate in a safe way. I've seen recently the new stipulations, and it'll be safe, but it's very hard for gyms to be able to operate under some of the list of stipulations that's been put out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It really is unprecedented times that we're living in. Hopefully things do start to turn for the better and we get to back to some sorts of normality here at some point soon, Primo. Tell me, I have seen pictures of your beautiful new home. It looks fantastic. Are you hoping that when you do find that spot, that gym, that it will be relatively close so that commute will be easy for you?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously it's got to be inside of an hour. You know what I mean? You know, I've been in the gym business pretty much my entire adult life. Whether it was as just an independent trainer or a gym owner or the head of a program. And, you know, the day in a gym is a very long day. It's drawn out. You're going to work 6 a.m. to maybe 8 a.m., getting some people into the gym before they go to work. Then you're going to be off until maybe noon. Maybe you get some lunchtime people coming in, noon to 1, noon to 2. And then you're going to be off until 4 or 5 o'clock. And you're going to work, that's when the majority of the people are going to come in, and you're going to work from 4 or 5 o'clock until, you know, 8 or 9 o'clock. So if a gym is outside of an hour away from me, that means I'm getting at the gym at 6 in the morning and I'm leaving the gym at 9, 10 at night. And that's sustainable for a little while, but that gets really old and wears on you pretty quickly. So, yeah. You know, I think it needs to be in that 30 minutes to an hour away from me. And that's kind of the sweet spot, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hopefully that all happens for you here soon and that gets up and running. One thing's for certain, this pandemic hasn't slowed down the fun you've been having. I saw a video the other day. You guys set up like this homemade jump and we're like jumping cars like off of it. What was going on with that?
I got some of the funnest friends around and like wild ass friends, no joke at all. And one of my buddies sent a message out and said, "Hey, our other buddy has an old junk car that he wants to jump. I'm going to build a ramp. He's probably going to get hurt, so it should be a good time." So literally everybody just showed up and he jumped this Honda Civic, dude. It was awesome.
Wow. It looked like
the state of Maine. I have to say, like, coming from New York, I absolutely love the state of Maine.
Yeah. Well, we love having you here, and I understand you have a birthday coming up here in a week, so happy early birthday, my friend.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you was your overall thoughts on the New England MMA rankings that have come out. You know, you got Travis Lizotte, Steve Domenico, and Lars that are doing this. It looks like they're doing a great job in my book. I thought the rankings looked pretty good. I wanted to start and just get your thoughts on Harvey's ranking and how you felt that shook out.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, you know, just to comment on what you had said, man. Now, granted, you know, my guy's ranked, so obviously that feels great. But all biasness aside on that, I think the rankings looked pretty decent. You know what I mean? All through. And I checked out all the weight classes, even the amateur weight classes. Looking at fighters that are my fighters, people that train with me, and then looking at fighters that I just knew. I think it was all in all pretty good. I think I read that they polled, the general public, they polled sports writers, and they might have polled some trainers and stuff, but they kind of weighted the way that the votes go. So like the popular vote only counted, I think, for 20% or something like that. And it looked pretty decent the way it came out. I really think they did a good job. Hats off to them.
Yeah, I agree. I do.
Your other questions about Harvey, I'll say this. I was, off the top of my head, it's hard to remember. I think that he was number 8 or number 7 at 145. I think he was number 4 maybe at 155. I was a little surprised to see him ranked higher at 55, just due to the fact that he's had less fights in his career at that weight. But that might also have something to do with the depth of the division at 145 as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of killers all across New England in a variety of weight classes. No question about that. Now, clearly, I was cage side watching Harvey's last fight against the Viking Jesse Erickson. Didn't go his way. We did speak via text message after that fight. Looking back on it now, what's your takeaway from that fight here collectively?
Well, I'm going to start everything. I think we had an interview maybe before the fight. And I said the same thing. I like Jesse Erickson a lot. And I still believe that his record does not indicate how dangerous of a fighter that he is. I think maybe he's 9-7. No, a little bit more than that, but he's, what is that?
I think he's 10-8, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right. So close, but 10-8 even. And a lot of people will look at a record like that and go, he's a 500 fighter. He is way more dangerous than a 500 fighter. And Josh and I knew that going into the fight with him. That being said, I think I said before, Jesse Erickson has one chance at winning this fight, and that's by submission, and it's probably from his back. And hats off to Jesse. He did exactly what he needed to do. There was, some technical mistakes that Josh made that we need to work on. Some of those things are listening to your corner a little bit, and that's not to say if you listen to me, you're definitely going to win. But if you look back on the video of that fight, the camera's right there. It's behind me, and the fight happened right in front of me. And you can hear from the minute Jesse forced the clinch up against the cage, you can hear me saying, okay, when you're ready, break off that, Josh. Break away from that. Jesse pulled guard. They went to the ground, and you can hear me saying, all right, you're up and you're out. You're up and you're out when you're ready. I also think that your best chance of being up and out from somebody's guard is the minute it hits the ground. Create that scramble and be out of there. And Josh and I talked after the fight, and he said to me, he was like, Coach, as soon as we hit the locker room, Coach, I heard everything you said. I'm sorry. And it goes that way. You know what I mean? The communication has to happen. I got to feel what the fighter's doing. Fighter has to hear what I'm saying. We've got to do some of the things that we practiced in training. Josh will be better for it. It's his first legit loss, and it's bound to happen. Nobody's going to go undefeated for their entire career. If you did, you weren't fighting tough enough guys. So he'll be better for it. And I actually hope that a win against Josh helps Jesse as well. I think he's a solid fighter, and I think he can do better than what his record is allowing him to do.
Yeah, no doubt. The Viking clearly is a solid fighter, and he's been around for a while. And I totally agree. I look at his record, and it's somewhat similar, although the records aren't the same, to what I think of Ryan Sanders. Some people feel like because he has 8 or 9 losses that, he's a journeyman, or maybe he's not the elite type of fighter. But that's a big mistake. Both of those guys are elite. I was sitting right next to you during that fight. I heard everything you said, and I myself too was surprised that Josh didn't stand back up. How was Josh's psyche afterwards? Did it affect him for a while, or was he able to kind of bounce right back?
He did a good job. We talked pretty regularly after it. I I mean, here's the thing. A loss is tough to take no matter how it happens or when it happens. Your first loss is really hard to take. And the truth of it is, if we were to first loss Josh and I have had together, I think I started training him, helping to train him 3 fights into his amateur career, maybe 4 fights in, and he hasn't lost since. So it's been a number of years for Josh since he's had a loss. There was the Giannetti draw, which was bullshit anyways. That was a little bit easier to take because A, it was a draw, and B, it was bullshit. But this loss, it hurt him. You know what I mean? But it also drove him. And I had said that to him in the locker room. I said it to him in the days after the fight. I was like, look, you need to take this loss and have it make you better, not worse. That's it. That's what defines a champion. It's what defines an elite level athlete. It defines a fighter. How does this loss affect you? Because if you don't learn from it or you get scared, then it makes you worse and you might as well be done. But if you learn from it and you make the adjustments, then it makes you better. And at least you got the loss out of the way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, I wanted to ask you this as well. I took a little bit of flack from the Erickson fan base afterwards because I do this Sea Dog Dominant Performance of the Month, and I just feel like it's a way to show some shine to these fighters here regionally. And obviously, the fans around here are the ones that are chiming in, that are making the votes, and everyone's going to have an opinion. But sure. on that NEF card, Primo, there was like 45 first-round finishes. I mean, good luck trying to figure out who was the best versus all the great performances that night, taking nothing away from Jesse's win. That was a huge win. It may have been the most impressive win of the night, but the key word here is dominant. I didn't feel like it was dominant. It was a slick submission. Am I crazy? Do you agree with me here, or do you think it was dominant?
Yeah, listen, I think for starters, everybody's going to back their boy. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I try really, really hard to not get angry or bothered by people backing their boy, because I'm gonna back mine. You know, and I'd like to think that I'm gonna back my guy within intelligent reason, and then I'm just going to be smart about what I say. You know what I mean? The general public, you're dealing with not uneducated people, but uneducated as far as the fight game goes. So a lot of, especially with local fights, you'll find that like the people there are not fight fans, they're fighter fans. You know what I mean? Like they may not go to a show except for the fact that they know this guy that's fighting. And so they're going to be horribly biased in that case. I try not to let that stuff bother me. But you know, you're giving a performance of the night or whatever, dominant performance of the night. Your criteria is a dominant performance. I think Jesse fought really well. I don't know if I would call it dominant. It happened quick. But again, I don't know if I would call it tough. Jesse, how often are you seeing guys pull guard? You know what I mean? Like normally guys pull guard and they get pounded for something like that. And Josh is a real strong top game fighter. You know, I've seen him caving guys' faces with elbows from the top. And Jesse, I think, knew that was the risk he was taking. You know what I mean? I think he his plan was, I know this is a bad situation potentially, but I also know this is the spot where I have the best chance of winning. And he made that choice. I respect that. You know what I mean? And I also think he kind of let Josh hit him a little bit. He stuck his chin up, and I know he's smarter than that. And by letting Josh hit him, it loosened up that arm a little bit for Jesse to get the, I think it was a Kimura reverse Kimura arm lock of some type. And I respect that. I don't know if it was as dominant as some other performances were.
Yeah. It was a very, very smart, calculated move on Erickson's part to put himself in the best position to get a finish. And ultimately he did so. You just tip the cap to Jesse on a huge win, and I'm sure things are bright for him moving forward. I do want to talk about what is next for Josh. There's a lot of short notice fights that are happening right now. I mean, you got Fight Island. There are fighters all across the country that are big regional fighters that are getting their shot now in the UFC. And then you got Contender Series that's supposed to happen at some point this summer. What is next for Josh?
You know, we got to see. You know, here's the thing. So, okay, let's put things into perspective. Right now, if Josh got a call for Fight Island, we cut weight and we go fight. That's it. You know what I mean? Like that's in the UFC. You don't say no to that. You just hope that the other guy has been locked down due to the virus at least as much as you have as far as his training, right? If a call comes tomorrow for a contender fight, maybe we turn that down. You know, being on the Contender Series does not guarantee that you're getting into the UFC. It just guarantees that you're going to probably get the toughest fight you've ever had. You know what I mean? And for a fight like that, that's where I got to look at it and go, you know, due to the virus, we're not getting in the training that we would want to get in. We probably are going to have trouble getting it done. Maybe that's not a fight we want right now. I also think that technically speaking, you can turn down a contender fight, but you can't turn down a UFC fight. You know, as far as the UFC kind of want you to play ball with them. You know, a contender fight, they kind of go, okay, we'll keep you on the radar. Might take a little while, but they'll circle back to you probably. You turn down a UFC fight and they're going to go, well, go screw yourself then. You know what I mean?
Right. You've always been very careful moving forward with Josh's career, wanting to make sure he gets the right fights, wanting to make sure he doesn't, I guess, I don't want to say step up in competition too soon, but you want to make sure he's not going in short notice and fighting, you know, Tony Ferguson or something, right? You want to make sure it's the right fight. What is the right fight for him? Is it 45? Is it 55? Are you just going to take what, if something's offered? Is there something where your head's at there?
I haven't really thought a lot about it right now, just because of everything that's going on. I would say this, barring, you know, a Fight Island type situation, Josh's next fight is probably going to be on NEF, right? So it's a local show. It's nice to fight at home. Next show for NEF, I think, is early September. But the truth of it is they've been pushed off since May, you know? Yeah. And hats off to Matt Peterson for trying to keep that same card going. So as of now, we're not on that card for early September. My assumption is that if they do have that show in early September, Matt's probably gonna do an October show, maybe mid to late October, just to try to make up for lost time, and possibly we'll be on that. For an opponent, not really naming any names. I think right now we need a solid opponent that we can get work in with. You know, when you're building yourself up, a lot of the time it's 50% making sure you get the right opponents at the right time and you're building yourself and you're building your challenge. It's 50% if somebody's willing to fight you, you need to be willing to fight them. You know, so we're still kind of hanging out in the air. I know that Josh likes fighting on NEF, and I know that Matt Peterson likes to have Josh on NEF shows. So I'm sure that we'll work something out there.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Devin Corson. I know you've been working with him, and he had a title fight lined up. Is that still going to happen, which I imagine it will be, and how is he looking?
Dude, that kid's tough as nails. So for starters, his main trainer is Stacy Lupo out of the outlet. Stacy's one of my best buddies, and he teaches out of the outlet, but he also has a regular job. He's a millwright. So in the meantime, if he's working, I get in and work with Devin, but Stacy's his main trainer. When I work with Devin, man, I'm super impressed with the kid's athleticism. Man, he's strong as an ox. He hits hard, fast. I mean, the other day we did a little bit of mitts, and out of nowhere he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, coach, watch this," and just pulls a standing backflip. And I was like, oh, that was after like a hard round of pads. And he just kind of smiles. He goes, "I've been working on it." I said, wow, that was pretty cool. But as far as I know, that title fight that was supposed to happen way back in end of May, June, is still on for September. Him and Zach. I can't remember his last name.
Richard.
Zach Richards, yeah. So that fight is still on as far as anybody knows. Devin is getting ready for that fight. I'm sure that Zach is, but who knows what happens between now and fight time as far as people being on lockdown, people getting training in, this and that. But as far as I know, the fight's happening, and I know Devin's training for it.
Yeah. Anyone else that you've been working with? I mean, I've seen pictures of you with Probin, and obviously Josh and Devin here, but anyone else that you've been helping grooming, getting ready for a fight?
Obviously the top guys right now are Josh Harvey, Matt Probin. I think that right now we're gonna be trying to steer Matt towards glory. Matt, he's an outstanding stand-up fighter. And really, I've known Probin for a few years now, since even when I was in New York. And he had basically said to me then, he was like, man, I want to do stand-up fighting. But I don't have a real Muay Thai trainer up in Maine. And Matt knows enough about Muay Thai to know that he shouldn't go do Muay Thai fights unless he has a Muay Thai trainer. So that was really why he was training for MMA, because he could get good MMA training. And he did some boxing matches because he could get good boxing training. Now that I'm up here, Matt and I talked, and he was like, honestly, coach, I'd rather do Muay Thai. I'd rather do kickboxing. And I personally think Matt has the talent to be in glory. And I think he has the talent. We've talked about this before. There's guys that are never going to get to a big show. There's guys that are going to get to a big show, but they're going to be kind of placeholders. There's going to be guys that are contenders. And then there's going to be guys that have a chance at really winning something in the big shows. And as far as kickboxing goes, Matt has that chance of winning something in a big show. Glory, Bellator, kickboxing, maybe even one. He'd compete in one if I could get him in there. It's hard to get non-Asians, people that live in the West on that show. But yeah. So those are two guys there. Amateur wise, I've got this kid, Timothy Murray, works his ass off. He's only had one MMA fight as an amateur. Austin Hamilton has been coming in and working with me. Randall, can't remember his last name. All those guys have had, 1 to 2 or 3 MMA fights as amateurs. So they're up and coming. We'll put the work in with them and get them to the point where, I feel like they're ready to do it,
Very cool. Well, happy to hear that you're working with Probin. He's such a good guy. I mean, his stand-up skill set is unreal, but even better than that, he's just a good human being. He's such a pleasure to talk to. So I look forward to seeing him step back in and compete wherever it may be next. I do want to switch gears here and get some thoughts, because I know that you have a little bit of a relationship with Mike Perry previously. And I don't know if you've seen what he posted recently. Can you give me any insight as to what goes on in the mind of Mike Perry?
He's a fucking nut. You have no idea what goes on in his mind. That's the God's honest truth. Mike Perry, for anybody that doesn't know, Mike Perry and I filmed some greatest knockouts for UFC Fight Pass together. He's a fun ass dude. He's crazy. If you ever get a chance, sit in the backyard with Mike and have a couple beers and let him tell some stories. Because his life is as crazy as you think it is. But he's just a nut. And I don't know with Mike. Okay. So, the thing on his IG now is I don't have any coaches. I'm going to have my 112-pound girlfriend in my corner for my fights, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The thing about Mike is there's a 50-50 shot that he's telling the truth. There's also a 50-50 shot that he's just screwing with people on Instagram. You know what I mean? And I haven't talked to him to actually know exactly what's going on. There is a solid chance that he will have a 112-pound girl holding pads for him to get ready for a fight and warming him up in the locker room and putting ice on his shoulders for his fight. You know what I mean? I don't.
He hits so hard. I can't even comprehend that.
Oh, dude, I saw a video and he's literally he's just tinking away. You know what I mean? And he's still knocking this poor little girl all over the place. The other thing about Mike is there's also a chance that he's just doing whatever he wants to do to train, and she's going to give him water, and he's still going to knock somebody out. Like there's still a good chance of that if that's the scenario that's playing out, you know? He's a dangerous dude.
Yeah. Well,
who do they got him? Mickey, what's his name? They got him matched against
Mickey Gall,
right? And that's a tough fight for him. You know what I mean? Like Mickey's, if he gets you on the ground, he's super, super dangerous. I think he's pretty good standing. Anybody in the UFC is going to be. But if Mike Perry is training the way that he says he's training and going to be cornered the way that he says he's being cornered, he is much better off fighting a brawler than he is fighting somebody that's, you know, real legit on the ground.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a fan of his. He's a phenomenal follow on social media. I mean, you got all the bad blood between him and Darren Till. Darren Till started up like an Instagram page just to like poke at Mike Perry. You should check it out. It's crazy. Yep. And all the things that he's saying. So I wanted to get your take on it because I've always been a fan of watching him compete. And I know that you have a relationship with him. One more for you, Primo, before I let you go. Obviously, a lot of rumors right now. CES just did a podcast with Bruce Boyington and Matt Bessette. That seems to be a fight that is inevitable to happen. Who wins and why?
Jesus, that's really hard. My heart has to go with Bruce. You know what I mean? I know Bruce. I think he's a good guy. We've said this before. I think he's one of the pioneers of Maine MMA. And I want to see him win fights. That's nothing against Bessette. I don't know Bessette on a personal level. That is going to be a really hard fight for both guys. I want to see Bruce win because I like seeing Bruce win.
Yeah. Well, either way, as a fight fan, I just want to see it happen. It's going to be two marquee guys here in New England, locking horns. Hopefully, if CES doesn't make it happen, NEF makes it happen, or someone does, because the fight fans are the ones that are going to benefit from it. So
I think it's got to be on one of those two shows. Because to be honest with you, I don't think any other show is capable of putting those two guys on it. You know what I mean? Whether it's connection wise or pay wise or draw wise for the fight. I don't think any other New England show is capable of putting that fight together. So it's got to be one of those two, you know?
Yeah. Well, hopefully it comes to fruition, but glad I got your take on that. Always a pleasure catching up with you, man. As I said earlier, it's been far too long since we've spoken last, and look forward to having you back on again soon. Before I do let you go, if you want to thank anyone or plug your social media, floor is yours.
Oh, man. Pretty easy. So it's just Primo Bellarosa. It's easy to find. Primo Bellarosa on Facebook, Primo Bellarosa on Instagram. Like the pages. You can get some information if you're looking to train. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. I'm full-time in Maine now. So you're either in Maine or you're coming to me because I'm not looking to really travel too much right now. That's all the social media stuff. Man, Ryan, thanks so much for having me on. It's always a really good time. I need to give a quick thank you to the outlet in Dexter, Maine. Like I said, they've been kind enough to let me do private lessons there during all this and train my fighters there during all this. And I really, really appreciate it.